Hello everybody, my name is Murad.
And my name is Basim, and the topic that we'll be discussing today is the Uber data breach of 2016, which was recognized in 2017.
In October of 2016, 57 million people were hacked. This breach wasn't recognized until the past November of 2017, a year later. Out of the 57 million people that were hacked of their personal information, 50 million were riders, and the remaining 7 million were drivers.
Many have asked how such a thing could happen. Two unidentified hackers had used a coding server called GitHub, which is a third-party site where they were able to retrieve the personal information of millions by gaining login credentials from an Amazon web server.
People's initial thoughts were that the hackers would use the information gained in order to create more acts of fraud concerning they were able to access full names, email addresses, telephone, and driver license numbers. But this was not the case.
In fact, these two hackers broke into Uber's system in order to receive a ransom of $100,000, in which they did. This money helps keep the hackers quiet and the data breach under wraps for over a 12-month span. So who are the Uber workers responsible for making this decision with the hackers? According to our sources, one of these men is fairly known as Travis Kalanick. Former Chief Executive Kalanick was demoted from his position at Uber and is being sued for fraud for providing an internal program called Greyball, which was created in order to deny service to government officials who were investigating Uber violations of local laws. By doing this, it made life easier to keep such an overwhelming data breach a secret.
The second former employee that was responsible along with Travis was Joe Sullivan. Joe was a former head of security for Facebook and head of trust and safety for eBay before he decided to work for Uber. That being said, Joe was a trustworthy man looking at his resume. But in all, Joe was the one that agreed to the ransom and failed to disclose the breach to the public. The big issue is Uber did not encrypt the data of their workers and customers. It was too easy for the hackers to get a hold of their personal data. This wasn't the first breach, as a breach prior to this occurred 2 years before. The second issue is Uber agreed to a ransom to keep the breach disclosed, which is unethical and lawfully wrong. Uber knew about the breach for a year before letting anybody know about it. And that being said, it's still an ongoing investigation.
There are plenty of impacts following this breach. First off, many customers have lost trust in Uber since a lot of their information had been exposed. Secondly, many of the customers who were affected by this data breach continue to receive spam emails to this day, where many hackers go phishing in order to access customers' accounts by making them type in their username and password as a quote-unquote confirmation. Holding off on telling everyone that you were breached may not be a federal law, but many states abide by this and are individually suing Uber for their lack of cybersecurity. Not only does this include states like California and Washington, D.C., but from a global standpoint, even places that have Uber, such as the UK, have decided to ban Uber until any further notice due to the lack of corporate responsibility. Because of the seriousness of this breach, Uber decided to promise free credit monitoring and provide identity theft protection to at least 600,000 drivers.
The lesson learned in this data breach is that security systems are very important. Considering Uber had 2 data breaches within a 2-year span is unacceptable. Uber, however, is taking the right steps as they have hired Matt Olson to redesign their security systems and help lead the security team in the right direction. Uber plans to instill integrity into the values of their Uber employees. Uber is still under investigation from this data breach. States continue to reconsider Uber as they hope to make a full recovery and improve as a company